the Republican Party has moved from outright denialism to we just don't give a fuck, which is to say, there is a slow change of consciousness. It's just extraordinarily slow, and that the question then becomes, well, what if this was rational? What would be the intent? And it forces me to go back to World War II, because what was the intent of the genocide? It was Lebensraum, which was the greater Germany, so that part of the Aryan vision that Hitler and his top commanders, lieutenants, supporters, his top military, his team, his cabinet, part of what they were all invested in was clearing Eastern Europe first of the Jews, then of the Slavs, including the Poles, in order to produce this 1,000-year Reich type situation, that they wanted an empty world that they could repopulate with themselves. They went about it in extraordinarily dumb ways. I mean, one of the open secrets of World War II is that the Nazi military machine, especially the decisions made by their commander-in-chief, were just fucking dumb. So that it's a combination of heroism and stupidity that accounts for some of the ultimate consequences of the war. The point that I'm making, however, is the logic of the genocide wasn't necessarily suicidal. It ended up being unsustainable and suicidal. And fascist regimes, as we've read so many times in the wake of the Russia-Ukraine war, fascist regimes are quite brittle. They can break easily. They're strong in the short term. They're even profitable in the short term, but they're less profitable. They're less strong in the long term. You're setting yourself up for a kind of failure. Ruling systems need flexibility in order to have longevity. Now, where am I going with this? In that book, Consequences of Capitalism, Chomsky raises this more recent example of a report that was issued by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration during the Trump era, during the Trump years, the Trump administration. And it's an insight into some of the thinking that came out of the Trump administration, but also, to me, it's kind of a window into that mentality that we associate with the extraction economy of Saudi Arabia, where when they were asking one of the Saudis, what will you do when the oil runs out? And his answer, quite infamously, was some version of, what the hell do I care? I'll be dead then. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, like the world that we are destroying is irrelevant because we won't be around to see the consequences. And that struck, I read that, 10, 15 years ago and thought there's no way that could actually explain anything. But then again, the more I read Chomsky, but also the longer I live, the more I realize that some of these self-destructive traits of human nature are actually so simple that I think my desire to overcomplicate them is more a symptom of my own needs and not of truth. Now, this National Highway Traffic Safety Administration was a 500-page environmental assessment, and the conclusion of this report, which was on like the state of U.S. roads and highways, and what should we be doing, blah 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 blah. The conclusion of the report is that there should be no new regulations for automotive emissions, to which you might automatically suggest. Those Republicans, they don't need any kind of regulation. They just want it to be a free-for-all because they don't want any regulation because it's going to impact their profits. But that's not what the report said. The report said, yeah, we don't need to make cars and trucks more efficient. We don't need to cut back on emissions. But the bureaucratic argument they make is this. They conclude that by the end of the century, the temperature will have risen to 7 degrees Fahrenheit beyond pre-industrial levels, a level that the World Bank called cataclysmic, about twice as high as the scientific world estimates as possible for organized human life to persist in any recognizable form. So, in other words, a government document by a branch of the feds, the Highway Administration, says it doesn't fucking matter if the cars are fuel efficient, because by the end of the century, human life won't be on Earth.